Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of GeekVerse podcast. We are here reviewing episode 8 of Halo, this series, and I am the clap, clap, clap Taylor Field.
I am Master Cheeks, Kirklin.
Well, now I feel like I am the odd man out. I don't have a nickname ready for that particular
I didn't realize
scene,
Taylor's
but-
went so well with mine
Yeah.
until I heard it.
I'm the Adam Hartcaster, almost.
Yes, and before we get into our juicy topic, a couple of plugs. You can find us with your connection. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast, our Twitter. GeekVerse on our Facebook. And you can find tons of other content on our Patreon, ad-free exclusive early episodes, and a whole bunch of new juicy stuff that's popping off there. But aside from that, what do you guys got cooking up in the Geekverse as of late?
Us individually, I mean, Dylan and I just did a side quest. That was lots
We
of fun.
did.
Yeah.
We cooked
Trek
up a
to
nice
Yomi.
spicy new side quest. And then Taylor, you're joining me next week, which we have a shit ton of news. That'll be a fun episode as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, should be good.
A little Elden Ring bonus episode coming out this weekend, so look forward to that as well. That's fun.
Very nice, very
very
nice. Definitely not slowing down in the game realm. You have a newscast you're doing, Kirklin, with Travis.
That's
Later
Travis
on.
Snell and I are doing basically right after this when the clock strikes 8:15 or 8:07. We'll see what time I make it in that lobby. But no, we got some fun topics to go over, some trailers, and it's gonna be fun. I feel like I haven't done a solo cast with Travis in a while, so we'll see how wild it gets.
Yeah, right on. Well, yeah, let's have at it. It's non-spoilers. So, yeah, I think we were all there last week, so we're all kind of caught up. But how do you guys feel non-spoilers for this week's episode?
Go ahead.
I'll go first. Yeah. So, we had a nice little episode we did last night, which took me basically right till midnight. So I'm like, fuck. Okay, I'll just stay up. I think Taylor, you did the same thing.
You stayed up, did you?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah. I even trolled you too. I thought I was gonna say like, oh, the room's ready. Like we're gonna do a midnight review for it. And just
I
totally
thought you were
troll
just
Dylan,
joking. Yeah.
Oh, I was definitely joking. But yeah, I did not have the energy to. Talk
I would have
about
been
this episode
crashed
last
out
night.
in my bed like Master Chief in this episode.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is the penultimate, right? This is the second last episode of the series. And last week's episode was kind of a write-off just with where we went with those side characters. And the episode before that had me really hyped on just like the way it ended. And then obviously this episode is continuation from that. And I feel like there was moments of this episode I was like, oh my god, this is the best episode of the season. Like this is really getting me in. But then there is some major drop-offs where I literally, like, I couldn't tell if I was just sleep deprived. I was laughing so hard. There was moments that I actually was just like LOLing alone at like 12:30 in the morning. Not for like an actual comedy hit like the writers doing. Just like I could not believe that they actually went this route in the show. Yeah, I feel like I was already gonna fail the show, and it's not over, so I can't fail it yet. But I feel like I was already gonna feel it just with where it was going, and then last night's episode, or today's episode, I guess, this current episode, it just kind of, it left a sour taste in my mouth. I'll talk more specific spoilers. I feel like there's some character decisions. I was kind of worried they were going to go there. They fully went there with this episode. And
Fully.
yeah,
Completely.
I don't know. I'm not very excited for the finale, but I hope they turn it around after this episode, because honestly I was pretty bummed out that I watched this episode, but that'd be too harsh. I'll pass it along there.
Taylor, you go ahead.
Well, I'm very much in the same boat as you, Kirkland, because seeing what they did with certain things in this episode really just weren't jiving with me. But there were other moments I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. Like, I'm really digging this. There were several different references and nods to Halo lore, which were super badass. But then again, they took full-on advantage of caressing every crevice of certain elements, and I really am just not pleased by it. Yeah, it was just unfathomable what we got, and it just really upset me. It made me mad. I went to bed angry last night. I was so mad. So yeah.
Oh, no. That's so sad. Well, I'll say that these two guys obviously watched it in the evening, and we're in our collective chat this morning, talking briefly without spoiling anything. and you guys both expressed some extreme disappointment, and so I feel like my expectations were really really low, and I think the episode like flew in a little bit above that. Like I didn't think it was. I'd have to really think if it was the worst episode because it feel like episode 2 and 3 like feels so long ago now. That feels like a decade ago somehow. The show just the pacing sometimes really stretches it out, among other things that are being stretched out. But yeah, I don't know. I think there is some good stuff in this episode that I'm excited to break down. But I can definitely see where you guys are coming from. It's not all perfect. Yeah, man. Just our main character is not the most riveting character. Not a whole lot of personality there. He's just very much blank, and it just makes it hard to feel too connected to him. But one thing is the storyline we had last episode that we've talked about. They're nowhere to be found, so we didn't like go back there. I feel like we truthfully are done with those characters for this season, so that I at least didn't feel like it dragged the episode. I didn't feel like it was extra long or anything. I think it was actually like one of the shorter episodes as well. So I think that's where I'll stay for non-spoilers.
Yeah, last night when I said it was like the worst episode of or it might even be this morning. It's all time is weird today. But anyways, I feel like I was a bit of a hyperbole. I was like, this is the worst episode because I completely just forgot about last week's because just the recency of seeing that episode. I feel like I was just willing to say that because I was so pissed off of like the direction that they went, and maybe I'll just say it there because we're about to hit spoilers anyways. But yeah, definitely, I don't think it's gonna be the worst episode, but oof, Simple Chief, man, I'm not a fan of this guy.
Yeah, he continues to just kind of, I mean, you said it, Simple Chief, do things that are questionable, and you just, yeah, it's riveting. Anything else you guys want to say before we get into spoilers?
No.
Let's get in it.
No? Okay, yeah. We're going to jump to, I guess, a quick ad break, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. So where do you guys want to start on the spoilers?
We got to start at the steamiest point of the episode, I think, because I just really want to hear, Taylor, how your reaction to this particular titillating scene that we got in this episode.
I'm pretty sure again I woke Madison up because I was vocally, audibly yelling at this
point. You were
point.
just like grunting like a covenant or something.
Yeah. It was just not. It was not going for me. I just wasn't into this. Like, there was one brief, quick moment when they're walking in the park, and I thought, okay, like, are they gonna kiss here? Like, I don't want them to, but like the moment passed, I was like, okay, like, it's good. I had my hands on my head, like, don't let this happen, and it didn't happen, which is good. And then all of a sudden, it's just, okay, he dismissed the guards. He's going in there late at night. Oh no. And yeah, just it felt awkward. And she went in to kiss him. Like, oh, they're getting on like their Halo session here. Like, she feels like he's like her equivalent, I guess, on this great journey. And there's some weird development stuff going on there with her and her belief system. But yeah, they just went at it. She took her top off, and then it just turned into this slow burn of just like them like touching each other's wounds and stuff, and
a lot of wound play.
A lot of wound play, and yeah, then he literally started clapping cheeks, and it just this isn't Halo to me, and I'm sorry again if other people are genuinely enjoying this show. Good for you, that's fucking fantastic. But I can't stand by this biased perspective anymore. This neutral standing, I guess I could say. The fact that we actually have Master Chief over a 2-minute period doing an actual sex scene is so fucking redundant to what I'm trying to actually enjoy from the Halo lore and universe. I can give you like more than 6 Halo games and a plethora of books without any sexual content as to a reason why we don't need it in the goddamn Halo universe at this time. I'm not saying they don't have sex. Yeah, sure, Spartans are probably fucking left, right, and center. But I don't need it in the context. Like, we had the Prophets in 2 scenes. We got to see only a couple, like...
It's been a long time since we've seen those
Exactly. There's a whole archive of, like, story and development that we could get into. But no, we got the wound shoulder touching and the kiss of the cheek, and it's just some fucked up shit, man.
Yeah, I don't think anyone out there is watching this and going, that's my Master Chief, which, like, come on. Like, can you, like... if you're a showmaker, and I know they said like, oh yeah, we're not pulling anything from the games, like it's doing our own thing. Like
Clearly.
you should at least have like 10, 15, 20% of people being like, oh yeah, no, I can totally see Master Chief in this character. I feel like the more the show's going on, I mean, I've been saying it for weeks now watching the show. I can't see this guy as like my main Master Chief like leader. And yeah, when he walks up to that room and he like dismisses the guard, that was when I was like, oh, this is gonna be like, this is classic. He's going for a booty call, but like chuckling to myself, like that's never gonna happen. He's gonna go in there and interrogate her. But like, this is such a classic, like going in for a booty call, and that's literally how the scene portrayed. That's where it felt like satire. Like I just could not stop. I couldn't take it seriously. I feel like the character of McKee too. She's just been so like inconsistent from like her initial like inauguration to the series of like she seemed like one of the main Covenant people, or like the blessed one that like is all Covenant side. And I always assumed that she was just like all a facade, like working for UNSC and like just talking to John. Like I feel like she was just like a stone cold killer that like is there for the duty. She's gonna die for that mission. Like in the course of this episode, she just like fell in love with John, and I was waiting for her to like fuck him up or something, but like she was looking into those ocean blue eye. I can't remember what his eye color is, but the fuck, she was staring into his wounds. That's for sure. That was so good. Great timing. Fuck.
Tune into YouTube for that one.
But like, yeah, like both of these characters, I feel like I'm just really, really not liking, and they just spent a lot of time like growing their love to each other, and like I don't think this is necessary at all. It was never hinted like the early stage of the series that this was gonna happen. I knew that they were somehow like related with their power, or like being the chosen ones or something like that. Like that was hinted early on, but the fact they're making this like weird Romeo and Juliet like love story between these, like it's so unneeded and just so awkward. Like I cannot believe I just. Like I seriously thought it was gonna be like a full 10-minute just hardcore sex scene or something, because the show's rated M. I'm like, I don't know where they're gonna go with this. I wasn't expecting this to happen, and then luckily it kind of faded away, but still.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that we've seen nudity multiple times in the show, but not in the sex scene. I thought it was kind of strange. I see where you guys are coming from. I think it just feels so rushed. Yes. And I think so. One thing we get later on that I'm excited to talk about, this part with where Cortana kind of helps out Chief, and they're kind of working together in a way. We'll get into that later, but I think that's what these last few episodes, and I didn't think about it until now, is sorely missing, is that throughout like this whole episode, like we don't really know what's going on with Chief. We don't know what he's thinking about. We don't really know, like we can infer based on what we've seen, like why he's wanting to trust this person and why he's like laying his guard down. But I really think a couple scenes where he's talking to Cortana and, explaining his thought process, and she's asking a couple of clarifying questions, and he goes into that. That would be a great way for us to get a doorway into his mind and what he's thinking. But we don't have that, and I get you want to build to it, but I don't know, have him talk to Kai or some of these other Spartans, or I don't know, Miranda, or like have him talk to someone, because I feel like in this episode there's a lot of things that should be interesting, but he feels like they put the emotional suppressant chip back in him. Like there's just no reaction, even in like these intimate scenes. I just feel like he's just a blank face. Like, through a mask. It's like he's still wearing his helmet, but he's literally like an actor there. It's so weird because we've seen him do some acting. Like I think last episode we didn't see him at all, but the episode before we actually saw some good stuff from what I remember. But this episode, I don't know. It's like we're ratcheting it up, but he like went back. He regressed. He took a couple steps back on the emotional front.
There was one scene in this episode where he's just like staring into the mirror, and it's just like a zoom in shot of his face, and I'm like, there's nothing going on behind his eyes. Like he's literally just like an airhead, and that's what this character is throughout the series for me. And it's so hard to like this protagonist and like really root for him. Like at this point, I don't have really anyone in the show that I'm really rooting for. Maybe like Miranda, because
Miranda
seems
for sure.
like she seems like
her up for sure.
Yeah, she's like the most likable character out of everyone here, I would say. But God, like that was another moment I just completely burst out laughing. I'm like, this Chief, like this weird this weird zoom in that they're having on him, just trying to show like this inner battle that he's having between his duty, the UNSC, the Spartan program, and like just his own love now. This whole new like category that just opened up in this episode that was not hinted at any point in the show. It was so fucking ridiculous. And like I haven't even started talking about Halsey. That was a whole nother thing that I just fucking hated in this episode, was the fact that they're just completely leaning in that she is the bad guy of the show now.
Yeah.
And it
Can we
came out of
roll
nowhere.
back to that in a minute? I just wanted to add
Yeah,
one
yeah,
last
yeah.
thing
I know,
on
I'm
this
getting
scene,
ahead.
Is that Taylor, you said like he strolled in there in the middle of the night. For some reason, it seemed to me like it was just like midday that he went into her quarters. So
Maybe
when he
it
just,
was.
like, when he just passed out.
6 a.m.
Like he was fully stretched out in the bed. He was passed out for what feels like hours. Like, man, it must have
first
been a really good
orgasm
session or
of his whole
something. 'Cause
life,
he just
yeah.
got like knocked out. I thought it's so weird, just like, in the background too, when she's doing the finger thing, and he's just like full starfish mode on.
Oh yeah. His senses were dulled, that's for sure.
What did you guys think about? Like, I guess what she's doing is taking the energy
The
sword out
saw
of her hand
scene.
because
Ugh.
she felt
I couldn't even watch
like
that.
it was pretty grotesque. So
Mhm.
I guess because she kind of in that moment where she's putting her hand on his head, and you can tell she's like thinking about it, like I could kill him right now if I wanted to, which I don't know if that makes sense for what we've gotten for this character.
Yeah, what she's trying to do.
But yeah, like why would she take it out? Is it just so the temptation's not there? I didn't really understand why she wanted
Great
to take it out.
question. I didn't fucking understand at all. Like, it didn't make any sense. And like by the end of the episode, it's not like she's pro UNSC. Like, I bet she wished she had that energy sword in the final scene of this episode.
Yeah.
Wishes she did. I
Well,
took it as
I'll give her a little bit of a benefit out there because she was like getting just prodded with that thing, and that's what kind of brought back these memories and made her snap.
Yeah.
I think where she was actually not necessarily going to be on their side, but we had shown we'd been shown kind of proof from the Halsey conversations that maybe she was trying to be cooperative, which that didn't make any sense for me. Like as you alluded to, Kirklin, early on, that she, like I just always thought she was a spy who was playing up everything, but then I didn't even know when she turned into like an actual good guy for a moment. I kind of went right over my head, that plot twist.
It's like what Commander Key said. He's like, you can't just take like a day to break out all of that like brainwashing base. I forget the word that he said specifically, but like that's true what he said. It doesn't happen that quick, but in the show apparently it does. Like it just, and then it flip-flopped again. She just was so enamored by the Spartan body that was in front of her. She's like, oh my god, okay, maybe I am pro-human. And then and there was some lines that she was dropping that I really liked when she was still like hinting that she's just against humanity, and like that stuff was really good, but then it just seemed like I couldn't understand what she was trying to do, because she just kept flip-flopping throughout the episode. She would just be so totally in love with John, and then like really like seeming like she wants to work with the humans, and then by like taking the energy sword out, and then she just flip-flops again where she seems like she still is hiding stuff from John and like just has her own ulterior motive. I will agree with you, like by the end, I definitely think she was more motivated to turn back to the bad guy side after she was just taking that fucking shocker rod to the back. That was pretty gnarly. There's such a weird moment too. The camera like went to like one of the commanders or something. He just like did a little smirk, like, yeah, I enjoy pain, like a fucking Sith Lord. Like it was so weird.
I tend to agree with what you guys are saying now. She's probably going to kind of lean back towards joining the bad side. However, that scene where she did yank out the nails energy sword, I took it as she was kind of renouncing her, not her belief system, but I guess just her claim to being with the Covenant. And this is something that they alluded to when she was talking to the prophets, and they just blatantly showcased it in this episode. But yeah, it's just she's in a weird dynamic, because I don't feel like she's just like, she's Team Chief. That's where she is right now. And John, I don't even know what team he's on. I guess Team her as well. But
he doesn't know what team he's on.
He doesn't know what team he's on. No.
Spectating.
So you mentioned something earlier, Dylan, about like the relationship dynamic between John and these other characters. I think that's a missed opportunity now where we are at, because there were moments where Cortana had great dialogue with Chief, and I really liked it, and they could have built upon that, but they didn't. They just had him outcast her. It is too late.
In
and
the last episode, like we're just now getting
exactly. they had the same thing with Miranda and Chief, and then they even tried doing it with Chief and then Kai, and they've just been axing it all this time. And now all of a sudden we have these characters coming to their aid in this episode. It just feels like it's out of place. Cortana was literally just shafted just to watch in horror all this stuff. Like in the games, you could say Cortana is like Chief's girlfriend. I don't really see it that way. I see it as strictly a platonic, mutual bonding relationship, a symbiotic relationship, and
She's
this
like
it's
Venom.
just like
She's his Venom. Yeah.
She's a symbiote. Yeah. And this it's just like she's just watching him clap his cheeks, and she's just like getting
They're
real
watching.
I guess like she sympathizes.
Halsey's like, great form. Like,
Yeah. What did she say? Like, oh, John's got a girlfriend. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Fuck. Yeah. I feel like also I agree with everything what you guys were saying about just giving Chief more time with like characters that he's already like interfaced with in the series. Like like those just seem so unimportant now because they happened so long ago, and they probably won't ever like speak to those characters again. And well, Cortana he will, but like the whole Kai dynamic, like I thought they were gonna be like a definitely like a duo team at this point in the show. There was a brief moment where that kind of happened, but it was just like we spent the whole time with Chief and McKee, and I feel like the whole introduction of like McKee from earlier on in the episode or earlier on in the series, I just really don't like now, because it's like, why didn't like they could have just had her there in the first place and then just like have like we went through so much to get her with Chief to like for the side of the Covenant have this like super spy that's their blessed one and like the same level tier as Chief basically on like the whatever the spiritual scale whatever their it factor is for them. I don't know what they'd call it, but like it just it's all thrown out the window now, and like not even on the course of 2 episodes, like literally in 1 episode, which is I think also like I definitely think it is one of the shortest episodes of the entire series. Like it's just my mind was boggling that we just got to that point, and then like the Halsey turn, and I don't know if we're there yet. I keep bringing it up, but just like
well, one more thing before we get there.
yeah,
I guess,
do it.
I'm trying to think like, hey, what has happened that has made them change? Like McKee having this change of heart from being what we thought was just like a spy who's just a spy, and now she's like totally on their side, and then Chief. I don't even know what's going on with him, and that's the worst thing, right? It's like he's our main character, our protagonist. I don't really understand his journey from episode to episode necessarily. So I just think about like the only scene we really got, and then we got the cliffhanger from 2 episodes ago was when he touched the artifact, and they both were on having this vision of being on the ring, the Halo ring. So I guess that's what's something about that was like some mystical experience that like changed their perspective on things, and I feel like that is maybe not properly explained, and like Taylor, I don't know if you have a better idea of why that would be the case, if something about being there, even in just a vision, a spiritual form, whatever it is, like just has some sort of profound like effect on them, because that seems to like have changed them like in a moment, because it's like Kirklin, like you mentioned, like McKee has been here for like a day or like 3 days or something. Like there's so much change to happen immediately, and the only thing I can point to as evidence would be them going to the ring, but I have no idea what that would mean. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the idea that we all already know what the ring is and all its secrets and everything. It just kind of irks me, but this kind of profound ascendancy that's delivered to these 2 characters, I'm not really subscribing to it that much. I would more be along the lines of enjoying Mickey's development of being more human-sided now, is the factor that in this episode she was walking around town and she got to see kids running around and just kind of like the genuine good side of humanity as opposed to the Covenant, and her seeing this and then her getting that book from Chief and just these nice human connecting moments that really turn her around. But no, it's the fact that she hit the synergy note with Chief on this vision quest, and they just hit the sack hard. So
that was actually the scene I was thinking of, when Chief's just staring into the mirror and he's just like drawing the ring, and I was just like,
oh
he's
my
just in a
God.
daze. It's like all he thinks about now is the ring, and it's just Very, very strange. It's like his mind's just been like possessed now by the Halo, and yeah, I obviously I knew we were gonna get to the Halos eventually, but how we got there in this episode, I'm not a fan of at all. Like Taylor said, it was just like now it's just like that is the main goal. So like going forward with the show, like is that still gonna be the goal, or like I feel like they should have incorporated like the later Halo stuff, which is kind of like what, and I'm not saying like the video game stuff because I don't really know the story with that, but like Halsey's plan, like I feel like that was just so rushed of just being like we're gonna take it over. We're like the Spartans are just gonna be better than humans. Cortana's gonna take over Chief.
Sure.
Yeah, like and again, it was all introduced in this episode. Like not even like breadcrumbs, and then save some of that for like her big evil bad guy speech in the final episode. Which, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I
like
guess
it.
we saw her doing the eye thing with Miranda.
Yep.
But we didn't know what that meant at the time. We knew it was
Right.
like some nefarious thing, but we couldn't tell exactly what she was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we want to just talk about that ending part with McKee too, where she touches the artifact and like her like a pulse comes out of Chief as well, and everyone gets knocked out. And then and then they go into that vision, and she says, "See you later." So now it's like she has this villain turn, which I do get to an extent. Like I think that her being prodded with this electric thing is bringing back these memories, reminding her of, okay, well, mankind, it can be evil, and this is what they're capable of, and they turned on me even though I'm being truthful and like authentic in this moment.
Right.
But at the same time, like they just found out that you were the one who killed a bunch of these people in like a brutal way that were their friends and colleagues. So like it's all kind of messy. But like what is she gonna do now? Like is everyone knocked out so she can just grab the artifact and run? Can she even do that? Because isn't as soon as you touch the artifact, you like go into like whatever seizure mode and you like can't control yourself until it's over. Like what's gonna happen at the start of next episode with that?
I think the Covenant's gonna detect that signal. I think that's the kicker. Before it was
then they come and
humans,
take over
humans on human side touching this thing, and now we have human on Covenant side touching it, and that's gonna draw them in.
I think what's
That
gonna
makes
happen
sense.
though with like McKee is like that'll just be like a flashbang for her to get away. Like she'll definitely not be in custody. I think at the start of the next episode she'll definitely be gone. Because I don't know if I want to lean into trying to play devil's advocate for like the whole situation. Like maybe she seems to know more about like the artifact than what the UNSC does. Obviously, just dealing with the prophets and stuff. I don't know if she's using them or anything like that, but like it just seems like she knows how to like prepare herself for what's gonna happen. And again, that's a stretch. The show never told me that, but I'm kind of assuming.
You have to draw some lines, yeah.
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 But yeah, I did like
understand
the
that
little quick shot to like the flashback of her and her her friend
Her
that
pal.
got just absolutely fucked up by those. Were they
Outright
UNSC people? I don't even
murdered
remember.
by humans, at least. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
UNSC, but definitely humans. Like they
They were,
curb
yeah.
stomped them. Just horrible scene. Like
Yeah, and like the graphic and gore of the show just goes a little too far for me, you know? Like I feel like I'm an adult, I can handle it, but like when it gets into the Saw stuff of like just this extended scene of just someone ripping out their nail, like what are we doing here? What are we doing here, guys? Like am I here for Halo? Am I here to watch just weird gore? And like the eye scene when Halsey 2.0 just got fucked up, like, are we trying to disturb the viewership here? You are by the show, and then you introduce these disturbing scenes that just take it even that much further.
You guys want to talk on Halsey?
Sure.
Let's fucking do it.
She being the villain is definitely not jiving with me. I always liked Halsey having her own ulterior motives, but this was just like she's really like fuck the human race. I'm turning on them. It's like what is this 1 to 100ness here? Like she's literally
she's on
Ultron.
the internet. Now she's just ready to fucking wipe out the whole human race.
I will say like I enjoy certain moments, but I don't like them, and they're not like an excuse for me to like the show. But I enjoy how she executed some of these stunts because that felt Halsey-like. But again, this is not a pass, and it's not me saying like, oh, fuck yeah, Halsey, this is great. I don't like that she's 100 right now. But that scene where she was telling her 3 Spartans to go and take out Chief, and then Kai was questioning it, and then she deactivated the comms in Kai's helmet, and she was just walking behind them. And just when they turned and decked her and they took her out, I was like, fuck, this is intense. Like, this is
Yeah,
crazy.
that was good.
But I'm not big on the Spartans versus the Spartans. As cool as it is, and I have a note I'll follow up with later on that, this is just not, it's not my kind of Halo.
Do you think they just
Yeah.
wouldn't do that? Like even if they're being given orders, they wouldn't fight each other like that. Is that what you mean?
Everything that I know
Like, that's
from
against their
playing
code.
Halo, literally, it's not just against their code, but like John, Master Chief, like his Spartan team would never do that. They honor and they would die
love
for
John.
him.
Yeah.
Literally, they follow him anywhere. They all go rogue for him in Halo 5. Literally, his blue team turns and goes rogue with him. So no matter what, they don't question it. They may have their own thoughts on it, but they always are with Chief. And so in this, it's like, oh fuck, Halsey's leading that.
I will say, for at least what the TV show is giving me, which for me is like, yeah, as I've said before, like the most I've really ingested from a Halo story. To me, it feels believable. I will say that they would, at least, like, obviously not Kai. If she did, then that would be very sus because she took out the emotional chip. But for Vanek and the other person, I can't remember their name, to me it does feel believable. I will say I was kind of cheering a bit when Kai was like smashing the whatever, that concrete table that she was locked up to. I was like kind of cheering for her just to. And then when she like just flew into that room and kicked him
Oh
across.
yeah.
I gotta say I think I did like the action of that moment, and that did feel believable for me. But yeah, I think that would have been a fun story route to go down if he had more people that were, just behind him because of what he's done for them over the years. But like as we're seeing here, like he's not a good friend to anyone at all. Like he doesn't care about anyone.
Yeah.
He never checks in on Kai when he knows that like she's going through a similar experience to him. He's just these last few episodes he's
Halo.
been a just blank slate on his own journey.
Strong as
just
Halo rings.
all about that Halo.
Yeah. That whole turn with the Spartans, like I think that had a lot of potential to be really emotionally gripping, especially like if I had any investment with like Master Chief, like, and they maybe in episode 1 or 2, like they had a moment of them just broing out and just being a team and like really bonding, and that doesn't have to be a full episode. It can be really minor, but like that would just lift this like fight that they have to like such a further extent. Like we have these just RoboCop type characters, which is Vanek and Riz, I think is the other one's name. And I, like they just seem like enemies, like for me as a viewer watching the show. And like I, like just reading The Fall of Reach, like they have so much emphasis in like the brotherhood and just like what that took of like just going through the Spartan program. Like they're all super just. It's all impressive that they made it to that point, and like they went through absolute shit and insane missions together as a unit, and like they did that as a unit. That's what makes the Spartans so interesting to me. And then like it's just not really touched upon. And by the end, like maybe the show is just assuming that because they're all Spartans, like the viewers should kind of be like, oh my gosh, this is a big deal. Like the Spec Ops team is all against each other here, but it's really not like at all.
There's no emotion behind that. I'll give you that. I like the fight scene for the. I just like when he picked up some fucking dumbbells and was like hucking them. Like I just thought that was such a scrappy and like silly fight.
Taylor, that made me think of that moment when John just fights off those ODST.
That's exactly what this
Yeah.
is. I'm
Yeah, I
100% sure it's an Easter egg trope to that, because like the gym's coincidentally there and the 2 Spartans come out. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. And just one last thing I'll say on the Spartans of just not being really fleshed out enough. Like I kind of forgot that they even had that moment of kind of humanizing them, of when they were talking about like their pets and stuff. And like again, like we're just gonna leave them as these blank robot type characters that are just, I don't know. I'm assuming they're gonna die now in the next episode. Maybe they're gonna take their chips out, and then going forward in season 2, like we actually stick around with these characters. But if we got rid of them, like again, like I wouldn't feel emotionally tied to them at all. I wouldn't
you
feel
could
like
just
I'm
bring
losing
in
anything.
2 new Spartans and they
Yeah.
would be the exact same, but you'd be starting from scratch. I think they'd keep Kai around, or maybe they want that to be an emotional death too. So I could see that being a thing, because you're not going to care if Vanek or Riz die, because
No.
we have no reason to care about them. Yeah.
And then just I'll say one little positive thing, like Dylan said. The action was actually like, I guess, kind of keep me interested in. Like that was definitely the like the weight room scene that was badass. And then when Vanek just fucking like Spartan kicks Steve like through the wall, I was like, holy shit, that was this guy doesn't miss leg day.
Cortana helping out too, just giving some commands.
Yeah.
One thing that like whenever there's like video game inaccuracies, it doesn't bother me, but I just notice it. And one of them was like Cortana's like, he only has 2 shots left on his shield. I'm like, does his shield not regenerate? Like, what's going on here? It's like a one-time shield. What's the deal here? Not a big deal, but I thought it was a funny thing to call out.
That definitely stood out for me too. I do really enjoy when she took control of the Warthog and like gets smashed into Vanek and he's like fighting it off. That was cool.
I loved how it was just like accelerating the whole time. Like the fight scene's going, but it's still just like accelerating into Vanek because he's just like holding off. So yeah, like I think it was episode 5. That was like the action heavy episode, and I think majority of the action throughout the series is definitely like a positive for me. I think they put a lot of budget into the show, and I think that's where it shines more so at having these. I feel like they spent more time and money in that than they did the script for the show, which I hope that's not too harsh. Maybe I do hope it's too harsh. I don't know.
Going back to Halsey.
Yes.
You know, I actually think I like the character, and in this episode, I think it works for me. To me, she has been consistent throughout the entire show, where I feel like she's always had these same kind of thoughts, and maybe it's just kind of ratcheting up how intently she feels about it. But after her last episode, or 2 episodes ago, when she got laid off and kicked to like imprisonment, now she's gonna get kicked off the planet and lose all access to her research. I felt like it made sense for her to kind of go to that next level because, you know, you're cornering a wolf at that point, and she's gonna like fight her way out of it. And she did it in like a very smart way that almost worked, or maybe still will work to an extent. Who knows? We'll see what happens with McKee next episode. But to me, that seemed great. That she just completely did this stealth way, like going through these overrides, turning off the whatever it is, the communications. And like this plan like almost worked. I still hate her little fucking gremlin dude who just like does dirty work for her. In this episode, he's like squealing and running around. I'm like, God, I really wish this guy somehow was not in here. But I also really like the dynamic where she's like trying to build this relationship with Cortana, and that turn where Cortana is against her, I think is great. And you can see that like that really messes with her, and she's really mad about that as well, among many other things. So I gotta say, Halsey's working for me as a villain because I fucking hate her. She's despicable. She's an awful person. But to me, it's all believable, and I understand where she's coming from. And I'm not to say I agree with it. I just mean I feel like they've given her so much screen time and enough chance to explain herself to different people as well. You know, you see how she kind of is just a piece of shit to her daughter and lies to her and does stuff from her. And then with her, I don't know. I guess he's not her husband, but whatever. The co-parent of their child, whenever she's talking to him, she's a little bit more open, and obviously he still cares for her in some way because he sets her up with that ship so she could at least bring some. I don't know exactly what he said, what advantage he gave her, but it was
like
something.
I pulled some strings so you could have your own ship, and just
exactly.
This guy that's like such a military man, just like giving this like traitor to the entire UNSC, just like this power to.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he didn't know that like the whole Spartan like command center basically was in her ship, but like, come on, dude. Like he's putting so many UNSC lives at risk doing that, and like for like I guess in that moment he does drop the line of like kind of questioning like the whole hierarchy of the UNSC, but I feel like from up to that point he's just seemed like such a military man. Like that like for him specifically, that just seemed so sus that he was doing that, and I didn't think that he like had any love for like Halsey, especially in that like dialogue they had together, because he's like you giving up on me, you giving up on your daughter, like you're giving up on just like this whole thing, like is this important to you? And she's like, this is the only thing that matters for me. And he's like, okay, I'll give you the tools to go do this. And for me, like from him specifically, like what you were saying about believing like the Halsey stuff, yeah, like I agree with you. Like she seems like she is gonna go to the grave on like doing her purpose, which is showing. But from him specifically, I feel like it just seems really weird. Like he was still like, okay, you got to leave at noon, but like he's just enabling like her to just cause havoc for the UNSC with her Spartans, and like what is he gaining from this? He clearly is never getting like the love of his life with this Halsey character back. Like she's clearly doesn't give a fuck about his daughter, which it seems like he really cares for. So that decision making from Keyes, I really bugged me. But sorry, I'll cut you off. You were saying
No, that's actually a very valid point. I hadn't thought about that, and I think that if anything, that flaw falls on his character more than her.
Definitely.
And I, we have seen a few scenes of them, but I guess they just don't stand out to me. And like I can picture that one where it's like they're standing in the battlefield and they're just kind of chatting. But I feel like we don't even see that conversation. We just see that they are talking. So I don't know. We definitely have seen some of them, but we definitely got more between Miranda Keyes and her dad than. And what's his name? I don't know. I can't remember.
Jacob Keyes.
Yeah, we get more from Jacob and Miranda than we do with Jacob and Halsey. So maybe that would have helped make that scene feel more believable, and or maybe they even filmed it too, and it just like got cut from the show or something like that. But I can definitely see where you're coming from. It's probably a very risky move on his part, especially when she's got all this blackmail on him and stuff like this, and he's still giving her a lot of rope to work with, which silly move. But I think he's made a few questionable decisions at this point. He's a little bit sus.
Oh, he really has. I'm going to set us to a quick ad break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. You touched upon it lightly, that little henchman dude, Halsey's Igor, Dylan. When this is like the most excited.
Totally is Igor. That's a great
Igor.
Point,
He got. I think this is the most excited he got in the whole series or season so far. Is when Halsey turned around and Cortana was gone. He like leaped out of his chair. He's like, "I knew it! I knew she would do this!" Like, he's just freaking out, and he can't. Maybe I'm like imagining this, but wasn't there a scene where he was like hunched over at his computer and he said some sly comment about Cortana, like I could have been better, or like he made some remark.
Oh, I forget. I think it was just like maybe like I don't know, like the accuracy of something that he predicted, and then he's like, "Oh no, it's always that." But like obviously Cortana, the AI, knows exactly what it would be. I like again, kind of paraphrasing the situation, but I feel like there was something like that.
Yeah, I think I kind of tuned him out, which
the little weasel Igor.
Just feel like never really has anything of substance to say.
Well, he's up there for me with the guy that's crawling around all the time. Like,
I just feel like it would be.
Forgot about him for a moment.
I just feel like it would be pretty easy to write that character out of the show and make everything work without him, and you don't lose anything. In fact, you buy yourself some screen time. And Maybe I should immediately go back on that. I'm just talking about how Chief doesn't have anyone to talk to, and that kind of sucks that we don't see that. But I don't feel like the conversations we get between Halsey and him really dive into her character. I think those scenes happen more with her dialogue with other people, like when she talks to Chief, or when she talks to Cortana, or when she talks to Jacob. Even like you get a little bit more when we talk to her daughter. But yeah, I don't feel like we get any of that fun villain stuff when she's talking to him, because it's always just for plot. Like he's just a plot device character that can help get things done in the moment. You can do the busy work. So yeah, I just don't know what the point of that character is in there, and if he sticks around, I don't know what they intend to do with him, but I'm not too excited for it.
Yeah, it'd be so easy to replace him with like an AI, like another AI type character. I know there's many more other than just Cortana, like those type of AI characters, or just have like a medical droid like Star Wars, where they're just like literally like they just answer like yes, ma'am. Like that's all you really need from that character. You don't need a fleshed out someone like that.
And we know she hates people, so why would you want to hang out with the most annoying guy ever for all time?
She keeps him around, just a little sex toy, little.
Oh my god!
Wow. He's probably gonna get killed. He's probably gonna get shot by a Covenant or something like that. At this
she
point.
will throw him to the wolves, like.
Oh yeah. She is not saving him at all. Not like she did Miranda a couple episodes ago.
I guess we did touch on this briefly, but I think adding to why I like Halsey as a villain. Another reason to dislike her is just how fucking creepy it is that she just watches them have sex, and like really she's like digesting it in like a scientific way. Like,
oh yeah, she's taking notes.
This guy that I've raised, she says I've raised him like a son, and obviously she's trying to get into McKee's head, but she's like, oh, I've raised him. I know him better than anyone. I'm his closest friend. and I'm just gonna watch him fuck and like analyze it and take notes because I'm just so curious.
That's my
'cause
Spartan.
yeah, it's like I got the perfect person. Obviously, has to have the perfect sex technique or something like that. So she's trying to add that in the code. I don't know what's going on, but I liked that for how creepy it is, and adds just another layer of reason to dislike her character. So
I wanted to add on to something that you said, Dylan, on like all of the like working in the shadows and like kind of like dialogue that she has with herself of like kind of like you understand more of her goals and her missions. I definitely did like all that stuff because anytime that she would speak with another character, it seemed like she was putting on a facade. Like she's just hiding a lot. She would always keep information back, and I think that's like I think I liked that about her character. And then every once in a while you would see like little glimpses of like, oh my god, there's humanity to her, like whether she is briefly talking to Keys about like Miranda, and majority of it's really bad, but even in this moment when Keys goes to talk to her like before he kicks her out of the planet, like they mention Miranda, and I don't even remember what she said because it was so quick, but she said something about Miranda and like just kind of acknowledging her that she does have a daughter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it, like we're getting a human side of Halsey. And I think that's another thing that I like now that I'm learning more about the character, playing she briefly appeared in Reach, but like in the book, just getting that side of character is, yeah, she's pretty sus and she's kind of a bad person, but I like those little glimpses of like, okay, she's a believable human, like no matter what happens, like she has a heart, even though it's very cold and bitter. But I think I like those glimpses, and then when we got them in the show, it was like, okay, this is hopeful. Like I think I was hoping that she wouldn't eventually just go the full villain route, and all of that got tossed out the window in this episode.
That's
Like I don't
fair,
think there's
yeah.
any redemption for her at all. If it does happen, I think it would be unbelievable because of like what was shown in this episode. Like I just felt like she completely cut all ties. Especially when she's like, my daughter doesn't care, you don't care, none of this matters other than my life's work. Like that is the only thing that matters. It's like, okay, I think she's gonna die now. She's gonna die a villain. I think that's what's gonna happen. So,
yeah.
I think that's also another thing that just really pissed me off about like her turn there is, again, like I'm just not gonna get those happy moments with the character because yeah, I did like her. Like she was one of the more positive things in the show for me, like at least early on. But where we are now, it's a bit of a disappointment.
I almost
Yeah.
feel like part of those humanizing moments, we really broke that scene down in whatever episode it was where there was that big battle and Miranda's like ship got knocked down, and then she went out
Yeah.
to go pick her up, and we talked about how forced that felt from her, how like I don't know, it seemed like maybe an afterthought. She's like, oh, I should probably go save my daughter. Like I don't know, it wasn't like top priority, and I almost wonder if part of her shedding that part of her personality is because no one's there to watch her and criticize her, and part of it was she was like keeping up this act so she could continue to do her science and stuff, but in the presence of that lieutenant person or all those higher ups and other just people, she's like has to keep appearances up that she's actually a decent human so that people just want to keep her around and stuff like that. So I wonder if that's part of it, but I don't think we'll get that at this point. And I guess my final point on her is I just feel like she's probably the best actor in this show, and I think that's probably why I like her more than other people. I just feel like almost every other actor has moments where I'm just feeling like it's really cheesy, and part of that is definitely dialogue too. But even with some weird dialogue moments from Halsey, I just feel like she's just hitting the highest batting average in terms of just acting in these scenes, and she has a lot of them, so it's not like just a couple scenes here or there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. How did you guys feel about I mean, you touched upon it a little bit, but the dynamic between Miranda and Jacob in this, because there is a full-on moment where he like hugs her and smiles, and she's like really diving into that linguistics.
I really like that scene. Miranda was one of those characters I feel like I was already just kind of rooting for and liking in the show. She's just kind of written that way of like, again, like I was saying earlier, like being a likable character. It's like, oh my god, I'm kind of rooting for this person. Like she's like the most clean out of everyone. Like she doesn't have any like dirty laundry, like especially around like the super sus Spartan program that her parents were the head honchos in. And yeah, I really like that because I liked her just getting really excited with like the Sahuli. No, what's the race of the Covenant? Like their language.
I can't remember.
Something like that.
It's
I
like
wasn't far off on
Sanghelion,
my-
I think.
I think you got it. Yeah, that's it.
So like when she's just like fully diving in, like that's obviously her area of expertise, and she just gets really giddy about it. And up until this point, it's just been completely overlooked. Like she's just getting like pushed to the side on leading projects. Like it's just been all about Halsey until she kind of she just scooped in and took over the whole Halsey situation when Halsey got banned. But like I really like that because you see Jacob Keyes like the father for her. Up until that point, like he had kind of just been, don't do this or do that, and just listen to me because I'm your superior officer. So there wasn't like a lot of good father daughter moments. And then until this moment when he was like, if anybody can figure it out, it's you. You can just see her like light or her face light up, and she was just like super thrilled. And yeah, it was a really nice touching moment. Which is so funny because I just completely like shit on Keyes like for the scene with Halsey, but then in this moment like he was actually really good. He was really believable as that father figure. But yeah, that I really liked that scene. It was good.
Yeah, I think for me, she's really the only character that I'm just rooting for her so much. I just want to see her succeed, and I she's just used so sparingly is the thing. I guess I compare her to like Creed in The Office, where Creed is like my favorite character like per minute. You know, like each scene he has is gold, but he's just in the show very little, so it's hard to call him your favorite character. I feel like Miranda's somehow that same kind of thing where she's just not in it very much. Like I feel like she gets brief little scenes. Like that scene you mentioned is like the most we get from her in this episode, and everything else is just short little moments. But I like all of it, and honestly, just throughout the show, even when she's only been in the episodes for like a scene or two, I'm always into it. And I like the relationship she's building with Kai, and I like the research she's doing. She just seems like a good person, whereas everyone else, as you mentioned, has this dirty laundry, just has this long list of shitty things they've also done before this whatever good stuff they do is now. So that's a character that, you know, in a future season, I really want them to dig more into it. And once again, I think it's a good performance from her. There's not a whole lot of motion that the character has to do. We did see one of those. I think it was when she was kind of intruding on that, like when her dad and the other lieutenant person were kind of going in on that interview. I don't know how to describe the scene, but anyway, just her reactions in those moments were good. But I want to see more of her because I think she's great. But ultimately, I don't think there's too much to break down from her as well.
I don't have like a lot left aside from a couple cool things that were notable. We got the Cole protocol mentioned, which was very cool to have that kind of name dropped officially. And for all you Halo aficionados wondering what that is, the Cole protocol is basically an order that was put out, or a mandate that in the event of a ship trying to evacuate a battle with the Covenant or anything like that, they are not allowed to go directly to Earth or any of the intercolony planets. The Cole Protocol was meant to keep the Covenant away from the intercolonies and never actually learn where Earth is. So since the Covenant can track where ships go, they were to jump to random points, or they were actually supposed to self-destruct their ships, wipe all their memory banks, everything, so the Covenant couldn't find them. So when the Covenant does find Earth eventually, like Halo 2, it's literally by mistake. They didn't know they were on Earth, humanity's homeworld. Yeah.
Cool. I like that.
That's cool. Yeah, I was wondering what that was. I knew it's some sort of significance to the whole Halo world and stuff, and yeah, I like that it was mentioned.
One big kicker Easter egg for me was we finally got to see and feel like the wrath of the Covenant. Seeing the planet glassed was just it was tragic and brutal, but like I love seeing it because like this is what the Covenant does. The Armadas just swoop across all of these outer colonies of humanity and literally just start glassing planets like no tomorrow, and this is the result of it. And everyone's looking in shock, like there was 11 million people here like a few moments ago, and now it's like all gone. We're gonna look for survivors and stuff. It was just absolutely terrifying, and this is what I want. I want Reach to have this happen to it. I want the fall of Reach to happen. So that was a cool thing to finally see.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I just feel like when stuff like that happens, just throughout the Halo, like whether without it being a Halo game or a Halo book or like the show now, like anytime that the Covenant just swoop in, it's like, oh shit, like it's getting real here. This is definitely getting the juices flowing. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it until Taylor mentioned it earlier, but I really wish we've gotten more of the Covenant. What do you call them again? Like the High Council? What are they
The
called?
prophets.
The prophets. Like I wish we've got some more of them like sprinkled throughout. It can be those brief moments. It can be those 1-2 minute long scenes where it's just them discussing their plans. And I guess they only did them early on to set up McKee, and then when she got sent over to mankind, they kind of stopped doing that, and I think that's kind of disappointing because to me that I liked the implication of that scene, but for me it just felt like too much of a throwaway moment where it's just like 11 million people died, and then like a minute later, like no one really cares anymore, and they're just kind of all right, well that happened. What's for lunch kind of thing. So I don't know. I think yeah, you're right. If next episode is the fall of Reach and we get this whole big battle, I'm sure that setup will be worth it. Is maybe a little foreshadow kind of thing, but it did seem like a bit too much of a throwaway for me. I just had a couple more notes. We've kind of touched on this, but yeah, the Cortana officially flipping to help Chief out. I think maybe it's taken a bit too longer. I wish they did it earlier, but I still think it was set up well in terms of Cortana's motivations. And I don't know, they're even talking in this episode how she doesn't have like sympathy or something. Like I don't know, it's like she can't feel certain emotions, I guess. But I still felt like it was warranted and justified, and I'm excited to see like that relationship build up more. So shoutouts to Cortana. And then the last thing that I just had to bring up is Kai, just as a character I've talked about before. Sometimes the acting and sometimes just the dialogue is so over the top for me, and the scene where she's like just fucking lifting weights and her face is just like she's on, I don't know, some sort of hallucination inducing drug. Like I don't know, she's just tripping out and everyone's like popping off as she's lifting a warthog. I don't know, that character just makes me laugh, and I don't know if it should, but I just find some of her reactions so goofy. So that was my last note.
I agree with that statement. I feel like when she first took out her control chip thing, I was like, okay, I don't know if this is just like the actor or the writing that just like she just seems a little different. And now the more I've seen, it's like, okay, I don't know if it's the writing or not, but like I know that this is what this character is like, so it always kind of throws me off, especially when I haven't seen her for a full episode. It's like, oh, right, Kai. It just like shoots to a scene of her just lifting a warthog, just like, yeah, everyone's cheering her on, and like the little one-liners that people are just like, especially like I watch with subtitles, so like you just get everything. There's one guy who's like, "Can you believe this?" Like, it was just like it was just like so cheesy and just it was funny.
Good stuff.
Jesus Christ.
Wow, we're on our finale next week, guys.
That's crazy. It's been a long time, and I missed like 3 episodes.
Like it's still hard to believe that it is the finale coming up, but this definitely felt like, okay, the acceleration is there with how cliffhangery this ending was. There was one more moment that guy that was like smiling, Kirklin, as he was electrocuting Merrick's shoulder. What was her name? Meek or Merrick? How do you pronounce it again?
That is McKee.
McKee,
like
that's the one. Yeah.
M-A-K-E-E.
Yeah, McKee. So when he's like literally like frying her shoulder again, he holds on to her, and then she grabs the artifact, and when she grabs it, did you guys see what happened to him? He's literally like fucking frying. Like parts of his skin are floating up into the air.
Whoa,
Like
I didn't see that.
yeah, it happens really quick. Definitely check it out. But he's literally like evaporating. So that's when she said like I'm going now, or like goodbye, John, or whatever she says to John in the Halo realm. I thought that maybe she was evaporating too, but it didn't look like it. Just like the other guy was just going fucking melting. So
Wow. So does that mean all those people died? Because that's like Jacob was there, and
no, I think only this random grunt did, because he was actually holding on to her and he just couldn't handle it, I guess. So he was clearly not
wanted
worthy.
to keep shocking her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's probably not a good idea, but I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Oh, I'm trying to think what else there was, if I had any final things, but I mean, in closing for me, this episode had like some strong moments that I really enjoyed, but heavily disliked it because I didn't need to see Master Chief again naked but with a towel at the beginning of the episode. Literally this whole season has just been the story of Master Chief slowly shedding more pieces of his armor until now he's literally naked with another person.
You reminded me too of in the fight between the Spartans and him. I was kind of bummed that he just didn't have his armor. You know, like he was in like his Under Armour like get up thing there, and maybe it's just because he's becoming more human than what the Spartan is. But again, it leans into that argument of like, this is just not my Master Chief. I don't care about some super soldier that isn't wearing some Mjolnir armor or something like that, right? It's not a fan.
You can tell a story like that successfully, and I know this because I've seen it. I've played through the games, read the books, and yeah, just this dialogue he has of what humans are more all about and all this stuff. Like he's come on some enlightening journey. It's
I've been a human
just,
for like 12 days, and it's awesome.
yeah. He even had that. Oh, he had that liner with Keys, where Jacob's like, he's questioning McKee's motives, and John's like, we gotta trust her. Like, I trust her. And he's like, you can't just change like a full lifetime of indoctrination. Can't remove that. And John's like, yeah. John's like, I did. It's like, oh, fuck, calm down, simmer down, John. Simmer down.
I love too how like, I mean, I would assume that they're just keeping super tabs on these Spartans of like, okay, all their vitals and everything. Like they have all this information, and would they not be like, okay, we can see the pellet is not in this individual, which we put on purpose. So do they just not know that Kai is just like a rogue now? Like she's not. I guess yeah. After this episode, she is because she kind of fought back against the Spartans, but still like. That's just kind of bugged me that like they've never made a comment on her. It's just like, okay, she acts different now, and it doesn't really matter because we're just focusing on Chief.
You think an admiral would see like, why is the Spartan randomly taking bets and lifting a fucking warthog for fun? Like,
why is the Spartan just fucking smiling all the time? It's kind of creepy. Running around
Exactly.
And they just, well, I guess Halsey picked up on it because Halsey saw her like heart rate fluctuate, and she's like, turn off. Like she's like, I'm done with you.
Yeah. They just don't
she's
care
not
about
gonna go
Kai.
through the trouble of reinstalling that thing.
No, definitely not.
Fair enough.
Well, unless you guys have any
Sounds
final thoughts, I think that kind of does it.
All right.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm still
Cool.
kind of thinking about what I just saw. And it's gonna be, I don't know. It's gonna be bittersweet when it's over because these reviews are fun. Just go over what we saw.
Yeah.
I hope I'm surprised with some crazy stuff that happens in the positive sense next week, but low expectations.
Yeah, I think that the fact that this started before and is going on after Moon Knight just makes it feel like a super long show when it's pretty average, episode count. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I should mention, back when the show was announced, I had trailers and stuff, I was talking to Madison, and I'm like, Madison, like, oh, this might be your chance to get in with Halo. She's like, yeah, I don't play the game, so this will be good. I put on the first episode 4, and she's like, why do we gotta watch this? Like, she only got about like 30 minutes in, she couldn't do it anymore. So
wow.
That wasn't even like the really bad episodes.
No, that was supposed to be one of the good ones. So
Yeah.
yeah. So there you go, folks. We'll be back next week for the finale of the Halo series. So hopefully it's a juicy one. Hopefully it's not 25 minutes, but a full hour. So yeah. Till next time.
Bye.
See ya.